So, beef heart, is this anabolic? Raw milk, is this anabolic? Damn, I think so. I'm 100% sure that this is anabolic, but see, the average population would think that these two foods are very harmful. You can get sick, you can get diseases, you get parasites, right? But these, in fact, are superfoods. These are one of the best foods that you can possibly put in your body. And these foods are part of the Primal Diet. And the Primal Diet has completely changed my life. It got my testosterone to over 1400, got rid of all my acne, and it has me feeling the best that I've ever felt. Able to get jacked and shredded. I'm able to have energy throughout the whole day. Your diet is everything. If you don't have a good diet, you don't have anything. And that's the problem. A lot of people don't realize this, and they go their whole day without being conscious of what they're putting in their body. They're not hitting cholesterol goals. They're not hitting their micronutrients. They're putting a lot of inflammatory ingredients into their body, anti-nutrients, all this stuff that makes you have low energy, makes you bloated, crashes your testosterone, and leaves you not feeling good. And this is why the Primal Diet is the best diet. And I'm going to break down exactly what the Primal Diet is, how you're going to apply it on a daily basis so that you can see the best results possible. So, the ancestral diet, aka the raw diet, what is it? It's the diet that our ancestors evolved off of for years before modern, scams and different foods started to be implemented into the diet, which just threw off civilization. And that's why so many people are fat nowadays, of course. So I'm going to break down for you guys what the raw diet is. I've been doing the raw diet for about 1 year now, and it has completely changed my life. Now, when I compare the raw diet to the animal-based diet, there's not much difference, but there are differences that are going to elevate your energy, your testosterone, and other aspects of your life. And if you want to go from animal-based to the raw diet, or you just want to go from some shitty diet to the raw diet, take notes, pay attention, because I'm going to break down everything for you. So you need to understand right now that the raw diet is the diet that you need to be eating if you want to evolve as an optimal human. See, for the longest time, I was eating what I like to call the corn and soy diet. This is protein shakes, chicken and rice, protein bars, oats, all this stuff that is going to increase your estrogen levels, not give you proper micronutrients, and it will keep you looking fat, looking ugly, and dealing with a bunch of other problems like I dealt with, low energy, bad acne, bloating, all that stuff, pale, inflamed. But once I implemented the ancestral diet, which is, the optimal diet, this is when my life completely changed. My face looked better. I looked more like a hunter. There's hunters and gatherers. And I started to evolve into what our ancestors were. And that's what you should be striving for, because our ancestors were high testosterone, high energy, strong, athletic. And that's exactly what you should be striving for. And this is exactly what the ancestral diet will do to you. So you need to understand, what were our ancestors not eating? They weren't consuming, any sort of vegetables. Vegetables have a bunch of plant toxins, oxalates, and other BS, which is going to get you bloated, make you inflamed, disrupt your gut health. You don't want any of that stuff. Vegetables are not something that our ancestors would seek for in the wild. They would seek for animals, other products, and some seasonal fruits, which I'm going to get into in a second. Also, zero supplementation. I think it's pretty obvious that our ancestors did not have supplements back then, but a lot of people think, oh, you got to supplement creatine, you got to supplement vitamin D, you got to supplement these electrolytes. It's like, bro, our ancestors didn't evolve off any of that stuff. So you shouldn't be putting supplements in your body. These supplements can build up in your body and actually become toxic in your body. I haven't taken a supplement in over 6 months and I feel 10 times better. Also, any sort of grains. A lot of people think you need grains in your diet, and actually America recommends that, you have like 30-40% grains in your diet. That makes absolutely no sense. Grains should not be any part of your diet. Also, no juices and high sugar content. When you're drinking a bunch of juice, a bunch of sugar, even honey and fruit, like, you want to make sure that you're limiting these things because it causes a lot of glycation. And when you're causing a lot of glycation and insulin spikes, you're no longer shredding fat, and this is when you can actually get fat. Also, tracking calories and macros, this is all BS. This is what is the benefit of doing this primal diet. That's because you don't got to track anything. You just eat how you're naturally supposed to eat, and you're jacked, you're shredded, you're tan, and you're high test. Now, what weren't they doing? They weren't avoiding the sun. A lot of people say, oh, stay under the sun. You got to make sure that you're getting sun. It's going to give you more energy, more focus, increased testosterone. Vitamin D is a pro hormone. Yes, it is in some foods, but you can get it exogenously through the sun, and you got to make sure that you're getting the sun. Staying up late as well, making sure that you're in line with the circadian rhythm. Because I'm going to talk about the diet specifically, but also your lifestyle is going to be a huge part. This is what I make other videos on my channel is, avoiding the estrogens, optimizing your routines, optimizing your cortisol levels, because these are lifestyle shifts that you need to make as well to make sure that you are also staying locked in that, situation. High cortisol training as well. You can train, but if you're overtraining, that is a bad thing. Also, saunas, cold plunges, all bullshit myths. I'm actually making a video on this in the future, but saunas and cold plunges, red light therapy, all this stuff is bullshit at the end of the day. And then consuming lots of blue light. They were not doing that either. Make sure that you're not overstimulating your body and you're not getting that much blue light. So now let's actually break down the primal diet. So the primal diet is 70-85% meats, organs, and other nutrient-dense parts. So most of the food that you're eating should come from beef. Approximately 1.5 to 2 pounds of beef every single day. I guarantee you, if you do that, you will be pretty much as optimal as it comes. Now, obviously, you can add these other things in there and, add inflammatory foods and all that. But make sure that most of the food that you're consuming is beef. Also, try to eat, 20 to 50% of the beef raw. B vitamins are very heat sensitive. Vitamin K, very heat sensitive. Vitamin A, very heat sensitive. So when you're cooking this beef every single time, you're actually limiting these nutrients that you could be getting. So try to eat more beef raw if you can. A lot of people are going to say, oh, you're going to get sick though. You're really not going to get sick if you're getting high quality beef. And that's another thing. You want to make sure that you're getting most of your beef from farms, 100% grass fed and finished. It's going to be more nutrient dense. It's going to have more omega-3s. And not only is it the quality of the animal, but it's the quality of food. They should be eating how we should be eating, right? We should be eating a raw primal diet. But these animals should be eating the raw primal diet that they should be eating, right? So cows should be eating grass. Chickens should be eating insects. Pigs should be eating fruits, not garbage, all this stuff. And this is what I'm going to get into. Why no chicken and pork? Because you got to understand that ruminants is what you want to be eating. Cows, sheep, elk, goat, these are all red meats. They're lower in linoleic acid. They have less toxins built up in their body because they have multiple stomachs to filter out these toxins. And the fat quality is higher. So better cholesterol, better micronutrients. It's going to be way better for your body. So this is why I focus on eating these types of animals. I don't eat chicken really, aside from eggs. I don't eat any pork. I haven't eaten pork in forever. There's just no room for that. There's no need for that either. So this is what you want to understand. On top of that, once you really incorporate the beef into your diet, then you wanted to get into things like other protein sources. pasture-raised eggs can be very beneficial. High in choline, high in B vitamins, vitamin A. Make sure, also some zinc. Make sure that you are leaving the yolks raw when you are eating eggs, of course. If you cook the yolks, you're cooking out the choline, you're cooking out the vitamin A. A lot of these fat-soluble vitamins in the yolks are getting cooked out. So this is one thing that I make sure that I do. You want to cook the whites. There is an anti-nutrient in the white, but in the yolk, there isn't. So make sure you're cooking the white and you're eating the yolk raw. Now, other things like salmon, make sure it's wild caught salmon. You don't want farm raised, fed pellets and other bullshit. Also, things like oysters, very high in zinc. You got to make sure that they're from a cold temperature land or ocean, Canada, upper New York. Things in the warmer, waters can have more toxins. So that's one thing to look out for. But these shouldn't be the primary source of your diet. You want to make sure that you're mainly getting beef and beef organs, and then a portion of that is raw. And the more you can do raw, the more nutrient maxing you are doing. Also, beef organs like heart, liver, brain, even blood are anabolic and one of the most nutrient dense foods on the planet. Try to keep it at 5 to 15% of your diet, because if you eat too many organs, it can actually become toxic in your body. Vitamin A toxicity if you eat too much liver. So liver, 2 times a week at 3-4 ounces is plenty. Some beef heart here and there. Maybe a little bit of blood if you can find some that's high quality. But make sure that you're getting the organs in your diet, especially raw organs. Organs are very powerful when they are eaten in the raw form. I love raw heart. It is very good. It doesn't taste bad. Raw liver, in my opinion, I think it tastes like shit. I still eat it from time to time, but it's very good. And of course, you want to make sure that these things are grass-fed. So now that you understand what 70 to 80% of your diet should be, what's the other, 20, 30%? So the other 10, 15% of that diet should be other fat sources. Other fat sources like, raw butter, raw milk, raw kefir, raw cream. These are all high fat sources with very low carbohydrates that you can add in there, but aren't the base. The base is always going to be beef and some eggs, and then maybe some other source of protein. But then the fats you can kind of toss on there to get more fats in, to have more energy, and to keep the satiation so that you're not, eating little food. You want to make sure that you're eating an adequate amount of food. So some raw milk here and there, raw butter. I love raw butter. I'll cook my eggs in my raw butter sometimes, cook some steaks in raw butter. I'll just eat some raw butter. It's really, really good. Also, tallow is good. Ghee is good. And then also another fat source, depending on where you're at, which we're going to get into in a second, coconut meat. These are all things that are going to give you more energy, give you more micronutrients, and give you more fat content, because that's the most important thing, your cholesterol and your fat content. If you want to optimize your hormones, you need to make sure that you're getting micronutrients, cholesterol, and fat. Those 3 things, those are the pillars. And this is what you need to add in to make sure that you're hitting these goals. And then the other 10, 15% are seasonal fruits. Seasonal fruits are things that you can add in your diet, but remember, these are seasonal. Your environment dictates what fruits you should be eating and if you should be eating any fruits at all, right? I'm in Florida right now. Mangoes aren't in season. Oranges aren't in season. What's in season right now, there are coconuts and there are avocados. So it wouldn't make sense for me to eat a bunch of mangoes. It wouldn't make sense for me to eat a bunch of oranges because they're not in season. So when you go to the Bahamas or something and they're farming these fruits and they're importing them, it doesn't make sense and it's not natural. It's not primal. So I'll eat avocados here and there. I'll have some coconut meat, some coconut water, but that's really it. Your environment wants you to have optimal deuterium. If you have too high deuterium, your mitochondria are going to be damaged. So your environment works together so that your deuterium levels are optimal. So deuterium is a mineral that's found in fruit. So fruit is pretty high in deuterium. But the reason fruit is seasonal is because The sun's hitting it. The sun's going to deplete you of the deuterium, dehydrate you. And so eating these fruits is going to get you back in balance. So this is where you want to work with your environment to consume, 10, 15% of the seasonal fruits through your diet. So like I said with example, Florida, winter, there are avocados. Spring, there's mangoes. Summer, there are oranges. So I'll eat these fruits when they're in season, but when they're not in season, it wouldn't make sense for me to eat these things. So how do you adjust for your environment? So obviously there's two environments mainly. There's summer and winter. Now obviously there's spring and fall, but these are kind of intermediates to the summer and the winter. So if it's summer, you have two options. You're either high activity or you're low activity. So if you're in the summer and it's high activity, you want to eat 3-4 pieces of fruit. But if you're not getting as much activity, which is obviously walking, sprinting, sports, heavy lifting, all that kind of stuff, then go to 1 or 2 pieces of fruit. And then in the winter, if you're high activity, you want to eat more starchy carbs, potatoes, rice, because fruit's not as prominent in the winter. It's not going to be really, there's not going to be any fruit really at all. And then if you're low activity, less starchy carbs, less potatoes, less rice. This is when you're basically almost carnivore, or you like to say keto. So that is how you want to structure your carbohydrates depending on the season and your activity levels. And remember that this is a very small portion. You still want to have the beef, the eggs in their raw forms, the milk in its raw form, the raw butter in its raw form, and then these things are like some sprinkles on top. So what should this look like as, an overall day? So this is what it should pretty much look like in your eyes. So let's say you wake up at 8 a.m., right? You wake up at 8 a.m. Now, I would recommend everyone to fast to the 1 to 2 p.m. mark. You should fast until you feel hungry because your body is sensing that it wants to eat. If you wake up in the morning and you eat right away, you're not listening to your senses. You're just eating. So wake up in the morning and fast to 1 to 2 p.m. Then say you train 3 to 5, right? 3 to 5 p.m. is when you train. Then after the training, you want to replenish with the seasonal fruit because that's when it would make sense. High training, high activity, replenish with higher amounts of fruit, 2-3 pieces of fruit. And then you eat your last meal at 6 to 8 p.m. And then by, 9, 10, you're in bed. This is how I would structure the day so that you can be as primal as possible. You can still see gains, right? And you're optimizing for your hormones and everything like that. And that is exactly how you become a primal and you follow the raw diet to not only look good, to feel good, and to do all this stuff. Now, understand there are some bonus things that you can do to increase your gains, your testosterone, the primal lifestyle even more. One is raw colostrum. Colostrum is the first batch of milk that cows produce after they have baby cows, or I think they're called calves. So this is a very nutrient dense source of raw milk. It is like raw milk on steroids. So if you can get some of this into your diet, it's going to make you grow more. It's going to make you feel better. It's going to increase your hormones. Very nutrient dense source. It is very hard to get. It is very expensive. But I'm telling you, if you can get raw colostrum, it is going to increase your test and it's going to make you feel 10 times better. Number 2, sunning your balls. Sunning your balls is going to increase your testosterone. It's very primal and it's how humans would live. There's a lot of guys out there like, oh, bro, this doesn't make sense. Like, there's studies on it. It's like, bro, think about it. Think about it. If you were in nature and there was no one around, would you whip out your balls and let the sun hit it? Fuck yeah. Fuck yeah, you would. And then, I didn't talk much about this, but water. You want to make sure that you're drinking a ton of spring water. Reverse osmosis is clean water, but it's also dead water. It's stripped of all the minerals. And that's exactly why I drink water like this. It is full of minerals. This is how you stay hydrated aside from the fruit. So if you want to stay hydrated, you need to make sure that you're drinking spring water, water that is derived from the ground, not heavily filtered through filters which strip everything. Yes, that's clean water, but it's not going to hydrate you and keep your body in a state of balance like spring water is. But that is pretty much everything for this video. I hope you guys understand what the primal diet is kind of like. This is how humans were meant to eat. If you eat foods like this every single day and you're eating it raw, you're maxing out your micronutrients, you're maxing out your cholesterol, you're getting adequate sleep and you're doing it over and over and you're keeping your stress low, you are going to live the optimal lifestyle and feel the best that you've ever felt. Hope you guys like this video. If you're looking for one-on-one guidance to adapt this primal diet or to take your physique, your mindset, and your testosterone to the next level, book a call with me in the link in the description, and I will see if you're a good fit for my one-on-one coaching program. But aside from that, like and subscribe if you guys are new, and if you have any questions about the primal diet, comment it below. I will respond to as many comments as possible, and I hope to see you guys in the next video.